So I need y'all to humor me for a second, right? So I'm gonna ask y'all to close your eyes for a second, right? And close your eyes for maybe a minute or two, and I'm gonna like describe some things, and then I'm gonna ask you a question about it. All right. So now you are in your neighborhood, whatever building, projects, you know, Crown Heights, Brownsville, wherever you're from, wherever you live, and like it's what you consider like the perfect sort of neighborhood, right? You have no feelings of unsafety. Like this is what your neighborhood is. This is what you know of your neighborhood. There's never been an unsafe space for you. And as you walk outside, I want you to sort of think about what you see. What images, who do you see in that picture? Well, you see kids out there, people going to work, what are the professions of the people that you see going by back and forth on the street, in the cars, etc. And then I want you to think about the things that you smell. What do you smell as you walk around and you envision this neighborhood of yours? And what are you hearing as you envision this neighborhood of yours? Now I'm going to ask you to open your eyes. Does anybody here see children in their vision? Kids, maybe yours, other kids, whatever. Anybody see maybe elderly folks in their vision, whatever it was? Did anybody see, I don't know, people smiling, laughing, joking, whatever it was? Maybe yourself out there. How many of you here saw police in the picture? You saw one. I had a good friend of mine who's in law enforcement say, what you're thinking about is catastrophe in terms of like trying to reduce gun violence and not have to rely on police. But I've also had a lot more folks within the last couple of weeks. I just really started having these conversations, actually, also with young folks. I've been having what's called like a listening tour. I've been having young folks sort of question storm, not brainstorm, but question storm issues around police and guns and why is it necessary and is it necessary, et cetera. In their vision of safety and ideal neighborhood, they don't see a police officer. So why is it that it's so difficult for us to envision safety without police if police is not what we see in our picture of safety? Be clear, this is not a conversation about anti-policing, right? I want us to really think about how can we envision community empowerment that is not overly reliant on law enforcement. When I say community empowerment, I'm also meaning in that same definition anti-gun violence, right? So I'm saying that as we do this work, not only approach it from a place of like what we want to stop, like we know what we need to stop. That's what the shirts say, that's what my cups say, that's what we do, right? We stop it, we suppress it. We need to do that, there's no question. And it also comes from this, and when we think about what we want to create, I come from a place, in my experience, of like the first time I had a witness, even to be through television, of police violence was when I was hearing about Eleanor Bumpers when I was a really young kid in the 80s, but seeing the Ronnie King joint back in the early 90s. I was going to school in Best. I remember seeing that. I was in junior high school, right? And it wasn't me being in the streets that made me distrust police. It was me seeing like how to interact with folks that weren't doing anything, that video that made me begin to distrust police. It wasn't me being outside doing things illegal that made me think like, damn, I don't trust police. It happened before that. And I think we can all attest to that there's a very real reason why people distrust law enforcement. It's not contrived, it's not made up, it's not something in somebody's heads. You know, we can think about the most recent cases, right? We know, I don't need to name the names, right? The violence that has been modeled by law enforcement in our communities for generations has in many cases been taken on by a lot of us. So I got this, what came first, the gun violence or the police brutality? Particularly now when we have the uptick in crime, all right? And then in one place you had the uptick in crime, people doing gun violence work, and then you got people who are doing like the Black Lives Matter and other folks who are organizing against police and police brutality. What people often say about the Black Matters folks is like, why y'all mad about police? Y'all should be mad about the people that's killing each other in the communities. And then we have, like in this city, like Commissioner Bratton and other commissioners around the country who will say, well, the reason why we there, why police is there, and why we are policing you aggressively, and why we need to do is because you calling us, right? And then some of us are calling them, right? I'm just talking in general. Some of us are calling them and saying things like, we need to bring stop and frisk back and all that sort of stuff. But then we get upset We get upset when we see Sandra Bland happen, or when Eric Garner happened, or Mike. Like, we get mad when that happens, or we get mad now that we got 2.2 million people in prison. And many of us, not necessarily in this room, but many of us were advocating to put people in jail back in the late 80s and early 90s. Some of it included us at one point in time. We can't be having this conversation in the either-or space. Like, either I'm gonna be talking about police violence, or I'm gonna be talking about our community violence, right? It gotta be a both and. Right? You can't think about like these two separate animals. They're both problems, and they're both affecting us, particularly us, that in ways that they don't affect any other community. So the idea I came up with this thing called child safe zones. I had a conversation with some of the folks after I received the fellowship, and I think what sort of captured their attention was I opened up the application with the experience of me being in prison. So there are weapons in prison, we all know that, right? But they also know that if you ever brought a weapon, if you ever found a weapon on a wake court, as we call it, no matter who it was, the jail would shut your wake court down and you just can't work out. Like, they would shut that one down. And it was sort of like an understanding, an agreement, an unspoken agreement that folks would not put weapons on that wake court. Like, folks would not do it. And to me, that unspoken agreement worked. The one thing everybody cares about in our neighborhoods, I don't care who it is. It could be a hitman, it could be the dude that's involved in the streets, hard body, hustling, no matter what. Nobody wants kids getting hurt, right? Kids might get hit, stray bullets, etc. We get that, not obscuring the level of impact and devastation that does. But nobody wants kids getting hurt, because they think about themselves, they think about their little brother, their cousin, their daughter, their nephew, their play cousin, whoever. And since that's a common ground, that's a rallying point, our children, right? No matter what we care about, I don't care who you are. How can we now build upon that sort of common ground? And particularly the folks who are on the blocks involved in self-destructive and counterproductive behaviors. How can we get the folks that's doing the street stuff on the street and the people that's calling the police on them from the window, how can we get them to sort of create this sort of autonomy of their neighborhood? We have the ability to do it. You all are like, we are models of it, right? There's a precedent for it. But the other part of it, I always say, is like the banger, is that like the part of where not even police carry guns. And that's a crazy thing. I know people look at me like, that's crazy. Like, how you can get that to happen? Well, if you ain't crazy, things don't change, right? And I think that when I had the conversation around police violence and how that models, that it serves as a model for us, we need to be thinking about new platforms, new arenas, new paradigms. So like here, like you see, it's like 5 countries, right, where police don't even carry guns, right? They don't even carry them. Only in special situations that they do come into the community with guns, but they don't carry them. And I'm thinking that, well, I can in good conscience tell our folks, you know, you need to stop carrying, you need to stop doing this, and saying, well, only police do. I don't feel that in good conscience in telling us folks that, understanding the history and legacy of police brutality in this country.
So that took a lot of time, that took a lot of, focus, meditation to get where you are. What is it, child safety?
Child safe zones.
Child safe zones. That's what, I see you. You know what I mean? And we support it. We knew you had something cooking, and it's right on the money. You know what I'm saying? It's right where it should be. It speaks to the fact that, there's a common ground that says, this area for no reason should you be. And I see the big picture of where it leads us to. I'm honored to be a part of the conversation. You have my full support as always. Peace and blessings.
This invigorated me, this opportunity to speak with folks. Because it's one thing to have something on paper and to speak to people individually, and I've been speaking to people individually, but to be able to now say it out loud, as it were, into a group of people, and they saw it as like, this is probably something we should be thinking about. That made me feel good. It definitely made me feel good speaking to folks, and people I respect, definitely, and people who come from different mindsets in a way, and different approaches. I appreciated that. It made me feel good that I'm doing something right.